Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Christy, and I will be officiating the weekly gathering this morning. And I thank each and every one of you for being here this morning. You're a beautiful being of light. I'm grateful for your presence. And before we get into our program, we usually have a few minutes of just meeting and greeting each other. So you can use the chat at the bottom of your screen, and we'll spend a few minutes just saying hello. Good morning. The title of this service today is called Out of My Mind and Into My Heart. And so that song that was just played, the video, really speaks to being in the mind. So we always open with Awakening Together's statement of purpose. So I would like to read that to you now. I'd like to do a brief prayer. I invite each of you to settle into your chair, settle deeply into your physical being. Just take a couple of nice deep breaths. And in this prayer, I speak for each and every one of us here today in this gathering and in Awakening Together, when I know that Divine Spirit infuses this gathering here today, that every activity, every word spoken, every thought, every expression is guided by this divine power that lives, that moves, that has its being within each and every one of us. And in this recognition, in this deep knowingness, I express my deepest gratitude, knowing that all is in perfection right here and right now. In this gratitude, I say, thank you, and so it is. Amen. So again, the title of today's service is Out of My Mind and Into My Heart. And along with that theme, I've developed a reading, and the reading comes from two different places. It comes from Michael Singer's best-selling book, The Untethered Soul. And it also comes from a book by David Hawkins, who was really an enlightened being in this lifetime. And he wrote a book called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, The Stairway to Enlightenment. So I'm going to turn the Zoom floor over to Reverend Gerri Scott, my dear friend and my spiritual partner in so many ways, literally and otherwise. Reverend Gerri.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Ann. Consciousness is one of the great mysteries in life. Inner energy is another. Every movement of your body, every emotion you have, and every thought that passes through your mind is an expenditure of energy. Just as everything that happens outside in the physical world requires energy, everything that happens inside requires energy. Creating and holding on to thoughts, recalling thoughts, generating and controlling emotions, and disciplining powerful inner drives all require a tremendous expenditure of energy. What you'll see if you watch carefully is that you have a phenomenal amount of energy inside of you. It wells up and fills you from inside. It gushes up spontaneously from deep inside and restores, replenishes, and recharges you. The only reason you don't feel this energy all of the time is because you block it. You block it by closing your heart and your mind and by pulling yourself into a restrictive space inside. You hide in the darkness within you. There is no light. There is no energy. But the energy is there, but it cannot flow. This is what it means to be blocked. What this energy needs to flow is openness and receptivity. Opening allows energy in, and closing blocks it out. Now you have to decide whether or not you want this energy. How much love do you want to feel? If enjoying a full life means experiencing high energy, love, and enthusiasm all of the time, then don't ever close. Your heart is one of the masterpieces of creation. It is a phenomenal instrument that has the potential to create vibrations and harmonies that are far beyond the beauty of pianos, strings, and flutes. You can hear an instrument, but you can feel your heart. If you think that you feel an instrument, it is only because it touches your heart. Your heart is an instrument made of subtle energy. The heart is an energy center, a chakra, an area within your being through which your energy focuses, distributes, and flows. This flow has been referred to as Shakti, spirit, and chi, and it plays an integral part in your life. You feel the heart's energy all of the time. Think about what it is like to feel love in your heart, what it is like to feel inspiration and enthusiasm pour from your heart. This happens because the heart is an energy center. The heart controls the energy flow by opening and closing. This means that the heart, like a valve, can allow the flow of energy to pass through, or it can restrict this flow. If you observe your heart, you know what it feels like when it is open and when it is closed. To live life is to experience the moment that is passing through you, and then to experience the next moment and the next. If you could live in that state, you would be a fully aware being. That is how awakened beings live in the now. They are fully present and life passes through them. Imagine if you were so present during each experience of life that it was touching you to the depth of your being. Every moment would be a moving experience because you would be open and life would be flowing through you. But that's not what happens inside most of us. Instead, it's more like when you're driving down the street and you see the trees and the cars, and it's all passing through you. And then there was this one car that caught your attention. It's like every other car, yet at the mental level, the impression became blocked within you. So when the next moment comes, you no longer notice the trees or the cars passing by. Your heart and mind are fixed on that one car, even though it's gone. What happened? Well, that car reminded you of your ex-girlfriend's car. Mental impressions are energy patterns, and the ones that are blocked may be held for a long time. As you struggle to keep such mental impressions from passing through your consciousness, the energy tries to release by manifesting through your mind. This is why your mind becomes so active. However, when the energy can't make it through your mind, it tries to release through your heart. This is what creates the emotional activity. When you resist that release, the energy becomes an unfinished energy pattern stored within your energetic heart center. Then this packet of blocked energy starts to run your life. The alternative to pushing these energetic experiences away or clinging to them is to be willing to experience the gift of life instead of fighting with it. If you do this, you will be moved to the depth of your being. You will begin to see the secrets of the heart. The heart is the place through which energy flows to sustain you, inspire you, and raise you. It is the experience of love that pours through your whole being. This is what is meant to be going on inside of you at all times. The highest state you have ever experienced is simply the result of how open you were. If you don't close, it can be like that all of the time. That is the natural state of a healthy heart. You have a choice. Do you want to try and change the world so that it doesn't disturb your stored energy patterns? Or are you willing to go through the process of purification? Once you sit deeply enough to stop fighting the stored energy patterns, they will come up and flow through you. And this flow will purge the stored patterns from your heart. Then, what emanates from the heart is love. Now you live in love. Love feeds you. Love strengthens you. You have a permanently open heart. The consciousness of love is an energy field that is unconditional, unchanging, and permanent. Arising from within, it does not depend on external factors. Love proceeds not from the mind. Instead, the consciousness of love is a way of being. It is forgiving. It is nurturing. It is supportive. With the capacity to lift others, love accomplishes great feats because of its purity of motive. In the consciousness of love, beauty, peace, and inner quiet become increasingly important. Instantaneous understanding through recognition of the totality of an issue confers the ability to discern essence. This is intuition. Eventually, the divinity of life itself becomes self-revealing. Love is the level of true happiness. The narcissistic core of the ego no longer predominates at the level of love consciousness. It is discovered that love is available everywhere. The more one loves, the more one can love, for there is no limitation to love. To be loving is to be lovable. Love emerges as a consequence of spiritual alignment. It has a heightened spiritual energy that emanates from the self with a capital S. Perception is replaced with vision that allows for awareness of the intrinsic value of all that exists. Eventually, the energy of love becomes aligned with divinity. Viewed as holy and sacred, love is the substance of devotion and of mystical awareness. Thanks.
Thank you, Gerri. That was a beautiful reading, and it expressed so perfectly the title of our homily today, and the way you just brought your own emotion into it really filled my heart. So thank you. So out of the mind, Michael Singer describes so eloquently and graphically what it's like to live in the mind. And I must confess that I've been living there most of my life. And, you know, I reached a point where my life became what I felt like I was living in a tempest. It just felt very chaotic, and things started falling apart. The whole structure of my life, my external life, just, it ultimately did fall apart. And this affected every aspect of my physical being and my mental and emotional being. My marriage, I had a wonderful marriage, but that started falling apart. My financial life changed in very dramatic ways. My career just started going to a place that made me feel very, very uncomfortable. And I tried for years to fix it. And finally, I just left. At the same time, all of this chaos was happening in my life, I also started becoming aware of my spirituality. And one of the things that have always been so precious to me in my life has been my relationship to animals. And the spiritual aspect of my life was actually introduced to me through, I have to give credit for this to Reverend Carrie Christensen. She's not here today, but she used to come and trim my horse's feet and for years, and we would spend hours once a month talking about spirituality. And she was talking to me about, oh, you really should come to, our church. You'll love it. It'll be so helpful for you. And I never, ever went until one day there was a person who came and did a workshop, and it was about animals, and her name was Morningstar. And I was just drawn to that workshop. So I went, and well, what happened at that workshop was I loved the workshop, but what happened is I became involved with the community. And one of the ministers there noticed that I was new to the community, and she came and she sat down next to me, and she said, you should come to our services and to our programs. And I said to her, just very flippantly, well, I'm here in spirit. And she said, oh, bull. Just like that. She's a very blunt kind of a person. So that really affected me. And I started coming to services, and I actually enrolled in classes, and I entered the foundational class, which is like True Discernment is here. And it really changed my life. And I have to give Reverend Carol Lawson credit for that. She's here today, but she recently retired as the head of founder and senior minister in that group. And, she created programs that really dramatically affected my life. And in that foundations class, I first became aware of the I am bad belief. And we had an exercise in that class where we were writing affirmations about I'm the child of God and God is present within me and all of these glowing affirmations. And then we were asked to put our pencil in our non-dominant hand. And so I did that. And what emerged was very unkind. And I know now it was the I am bad belief, and it was coming from my subconscious. Apparently, when you write with your non-dominant hand, you can touch into your subconscious. So that was in 2010. And what came out was, you're no good. And I was shocked because here I was studying to enhance my self-esteem, and here I'm finding that I'm no good. And so Reverend Carol comes along and says, oh, that's good. I'm so glad you touched into that. And I was like, what? How is this good? But what that experience did for me is it really engendered a sense of willingness for me to continue along this path that I had just started on. And I entered what we call the practitioner program, where we do very intense purification practices. And we do other things too, to bring forth deep spirituality. But in terms of being in my mind, I started doing purification there. And when I graduated from that program in 2014, I think it was 2014, because it's a 2-year program, I felt very called to go and become to work with horses and people. And so I entered a program in Colorado that taught me how to use trauma release, a particular trauma release technique in working with horses, but for people. And the technique is called somatic experiencing. And what it is you really go into your body and you touch places within your body where you're holding this stored energy, these packets of energy that Michael Singer was talking about. And when you touch upon those places, if you stay with it, it releases. And it's very analogous to what we call here at Awakening Together, rest, accept, and trust. It's a very powerful process on its own when you're in the presence of a horse that has a very huge energy field, especially emanating from the heart. It can be very powerful. And that's what happened to me. The first time I was there in Colorado, I went there 4 times over the course of a year. And the first time I was in a round pen, it's a round paddock with a horse, and his name was Cor. That was his nickname, but his real name was Corazon de Montana, which means heart of the mountains. And he had been a Mustang. And, you know, he had been rounded up by the Bureau of Land Management, and he ended up at this farm with this, this woman who did this program. And his name was so fitting because the first time I did this process in the presence of Cor, the horse, and an experienced coach, I had an experience where I saw my heart. I actually visualized it. I saw an image of my heart, and there was a wooden fence around it, and it just fell apart. And that was my first experience of being in my heart. My heart just opened. And that was in 2014. And then I was in that program for 2 years. No, 1 year, I'm sorry. So in 2015, I graduated, and then I found a therapist who is certified in this somatic experiencing technique, and I've been working with her for 6.5 years. And David Hawkins talks in one of his books about when we're clearing these energy patterns, you know, they start in our lower chakras, which is very much based on physicality and form. And I was having a lot of experiences in my solar plexus area and a lot of releases over the years. And some of them were very difficult. And somebody showed up in those experiences. I mean, they were like action movies, some of them. And this character showed up completely unannounced. He just showed up one day because I was in this experience within myself, and whatever was going on at the time wasn't releasing. So this action character just came in, and he had a sword, and he started fighting whatever was going on with me. And his name was Robo Guy, and he started helping me. He's this bright yellow and orange and blue character, like royal blue and school bus yellow. And Robo Guy would come in and help me. So I know this is all fourth principle of God stuff, but it really, you know, these experiences would clear energy, and I could feel it moving through me. And I started feeling more comfortable within myself. And eventually, and this is within the past year, those experiences are moving now into my heart area. And that's been supported by all of the inquiry work that I do here at Awakening Together. So I'm doing a lot of inquiry work now. And at the same time, I'm still doing these somatic experiencing work. And RoboGuy stopped showing up, and he stopped showing up a few years ago. And when I started moving into my heart, he showed up again. I had an experience a few months ago, and this was after the releasing the I Am Bad Belief retreat that I had attended in December. And I had an experience in my heart area, and I don't remember what the precipitating circumstances were in my life, but again, I was in my heart, and there was a cement wall around my heart, and it just wouldn't release. And so I was just sitting there with it, and all of a sudden, RoboGuy showed up again, and he had this big sledgehammer, and he started banging this wall, and this cement wall just fell. And my heart just opened, and I felt the release of the energy. And if I'm really deeply in my heart, I can feel the sensibility of opening to all that is. You know, I think of it as universal energy that I'm opening up, but that's what it feels like. That my heart is like a portal to deeper levels of, more profound levels of awareness and of beingness. So that's what happened when the cement wall fell. And I had another experience just recently. Again, I don't remember the circumstances in form, but again, I was in my heart, and my heart was encased within a cement block. And, you know, it's really hard to break your way out of a cement block. But again, Robo-Kai came forth, and, you know, he just got rid of it. You know, he had his sledgehammer and he opened it up, and another heart-opening experience. So I've had these successions of heart-opening experiences, and, you know, together with the self-inquiry work that I'm doing, releasing the I am bad belief, I'm noticing that belief is receding. It's not as loud and as strident as it used to be. It's still there, and I still notice it, but it feels like I'm more remote from it. It doesn't feel that it's who I am. It used to feel that that's who I am. I am this person that's bad. And I'm coming to the realization now that I'm not even a person, but I'm certainly not that. So I'm moving into awareness that, you know, I think is moving toward love, which Michael Singer talked about, opening of the heart. And opening of the heart really brings us, and I'm feeling that within myself, just more acceptance of allowing things to just be as they are, and being in the now, and being open to what comes in and moves through me and flows out of me then, instead of getting blocked, instead of grabbing onto something that upsets me or that I might like, you know, because positive things too, we can grab onto them and cling to them, and that's a block also. I'm finding that I just allow life to move through me. So I know that my heart is more open than it's ever been in my life. So I'm at this juncture now where I'm still living with the I am bad belief, but I don't feel that it's a part of my identity. So I feel more disconnected to it. And I feel myself moving into a place of greater willingness to be love, and greater acceptance of all things, allowing all things to be as they are in a very deep way, as Adyashanti would say. And one of the things that's inspired me is, which Anne talked about a few minutes ago in Jackie's retreat that's coming up, is, you know, the spiritual aspiration. And I've been guided by a spiritual aspiration since I came into Awakening Together, which was a few years ago now. And I've had the same spiritual aspiration for several years. It hasn't changed much. And that's to know truth. The thing is, I would forget about it very frequently. I would just forget to pay attention to it or to refer to it. And, you know, it would come back to me and I would read it again, and then I would remember for a few days, but then I would forget. And I had I think a transfiguring experience 2 weeks ago in the Inspired Clarity retreat, which Regina just concluded. And I had entered that retreat. I knew it was a very contemplative retreat. The focus was on contemplating spiritual quotes. And I love contemplating. I've been contemplating for years here at Awakening Together. I learned how to contemplate here, and I've always been inspired by the contemplations of the Christian mystics. So the retreat, you know, it spoke to me, but I also felt that in my own contemplations that I had reached a plateau where I kept, it was like I was going around in a circle, and it was the same circle. I was getting the same message over and over and over. And basically it was to move into awareness, to move into the self. And, you know, I would ask how to do it, and I would get some information, but somehow it just wasn't going anywhere. So the real reason that I went into that retreat was I felt that it would help me move to a more expansive level, a more expansive place with my contemplations. And it really did that. It's a wonderful retreat. And I had one contemplation in particular that really changed my focus about how I am being in the world. And, you know, my dilemma felt to me like, how do I remember, to be in awareness, to know truth? And in this contemplation, I got the message that that life is a process and God is a process. And those of us who have studied the Kabbalah here in the MPP program remember that. I took that class, it was probably a year and a half ago now. So, but that showed up in my contemplation very, very starkly, that I am part of creation. I am part of that third principle of God. I am moving, I am evolving, that's who I am. And then what came to me is that the ego is not moving, it's stuck. The ego is just stuck in one place, and that place is self-glorification, small ass self, right? Self-glorification, self-gratification. And after that, the duality of those two different places, what came to me was glory to God in the highest. It came to me in Latin, but that's what the message was, glory to God in the highest. And the message came, this is your motto now. And it just was a beautiful thing, because it answered my question, how do I remember? And the way I remember is through devotion. And that is really talked about in the Inspired Clarity Retreat. But I think that's the piece that I was missing in how do I remember to remember, because I have been devoted in many ways, but I've been devoted to my spiritual path and to practicing along the way, more in a way of following the breadcrumbs. It's, something would show up and this is really calling to me. I want to do this. And that's how I ended up in that equine program. And that's how I ended up in practitioner training. And that's how I ended up in gentle healing. Things would present themselves and they seemed so compelling that I needed to do them. But what happened to me in the Inspired Clarity Retreat is I connected with the inner self within, who is directing me to be devoted. And what is devotion? I thought I was devoted because I was doing so many spiritual practices, and it really was the main focus of my life. But what's happening to me now with devotion is it's still the main focus of my life, but it's so much more profound. It is what my life is about. And I'm just starting that path of devotion by remembering to be devoted to the self within. And I think that's the key for me, to remember to be devoted. Because if I remember to just slip out of my mind and slip into awareness, that hasn't been doing it for me. And I think I was in my mind trying to do that and trying to tell myself, move out of your mind, move into your heart, move into awareness. But now all I need to do is to remember my devotion to all that is, which is the truth of my being, and which is to know truth. So that's where I am right now. And it feels really great. And it's also a song. I mean, the Latin version of Glory to God in the Highest is Gloria in Excelsis Deo. And that's a song. It's a Christian hymn, and it goes way, way, way back, centuries back, before Catholicism and even to the early days of Christianity. And it speaks to me because I hear it in my mind, the song, and I just remember to be devoted. And so just in closing, I'll just say that being where I am now, I feel my heart opening, and I feel myself more open to life. I feel myself, as my heart continues to open, I feel more compassion emanating from within me, more understanding of other beings and their situation or even their behavior, whether it how I perceive it. I'm experiencing a lot less judgment. I still hear judgment coming up, but I kind of don't believe it anymore. I just watch it like, oh, that's judgment. In terms of devotion, I think the key to devotion is willingness to be devoted, and the intention behind that willingness. So that's where I am right now, being with that intention, being with my own willingness, and just being devoted to the self within. Thank you. Thank you, Rhoda. It's funny, the songs, it's a Beatles day, and when I came into the Zoom room this morning, Rhoda was playing Beatles songs, and I just was so grateful. I'm sure that was intentional, and whatever was playing at the time was so relevant. It was something about being in the mind, and I thought, oh, that would have been perfect too. So thank you, Rhoda. So I'd like to open up the room to sharing. If anyone would like to share, please feel free to do so. And Regina.
It's so funny. I had like a quick block and that I couldn't remember how to unmute, which you would think would never ever occur because, I talk all the time. But I just want to say that your homily gave me chills. I just thought it was beautiful. I loved it from the beginning where you were talking about, I don't remember your exact words, but certainly the I am bad belief being exposed and about the, I don't remember, robo guy, I think you said, coming and breaking it up. But I especially got the chills at the end when you talked about realizing the importance of devotion. Because I think a lot of people make the mistake. I think it's an extremely common mistake to try and shift into awareness with the mind. And that's not the path, right? That's not the path. The path is to drop into devotion and let it shift you into awareness, right? And so when you talked about having that insight and having that realization in this last retreat, it just gave me chills. It's like, if there was one gift that I could give to that retreat, it would have been that insight. Of course, I didn't do anything, as you know, because the retreat was me turning it over to you guys and making you guys do the work. And that's the only way you can have the insight is in yourself, right? But yeah, I wanted to let you know it gave me chills. So I think you have, in that way, through my body, confirmation of everything that you shared. And I absolutely loved it. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else like to share? I can't see everybody. I don't see anyone's hand up. Is Martha, is your hand up or are you just moving? You're just moving. I do that all the time. Okay, well, let's see how we're doing time-wise here. So I have a lot of thank yous this morning. And my first one is gratitude for awakening together. Every experience that I've had in my life has informed my journey and brought me to this moment where I am here today. But awakening together has been and is a huge part of that. And I'm very, very grateful just to Spirit for awakening together, and in particular for Spirit moving through Regina and doing everything she did to create this organization, and then passing on especially administrative leadership to Jacqueline. So Jacqueline and Connie both have inspired me so much in gentle healing, and all of the MPP teachers and facilitators. It's and Blanchard, and this morning Gerri. I'm just so grateful. And in that vein, I just want to remind everyone about support for Awakening Together. I know Rhoda is going to put up a link. If you're as grateful as I feel at this moment, you might think about supporting this organization, because most of the programs are completely free, and there are operating costs that must be met in order to do that. So I would encourage you. And there's also a code link up there that you can use. I have no idea how to use that, but some of you technologically oriented people might. I want to thank Gerri Scott. Such a beautiful reading, and you've been such a bright light in my life in so many ways, and you've led me to this place. It was Gerri, honestly, who kept telling me how wonderful Awakening Together is while we were, in ministry programs at CCL here in New Jersey. And I finally came along, but she's really like a sister to me in so many ways. So I'm grateful for the beautiful reading and for our friendship. And Anne, thank you for the announcements again. You showed up. I just love it. Thank you. You did a beautiful job. I also want to give special thanks to Rhoda. She's our new vice president here. And I just love Rhoda. Rhoda is just an amazing being. She's so thoughtful and so kind and so loving in everything she does. We are so fortunate to have her supporting Awakening Together and supporting the MPP facilitators and supporting me here today. I am so grateful for the totality of everything you do, Rhoda, today, but everything. So I think we're pretty close to closing. Is there anything anyone would like to say before we go into our closing song? Okay. All right. Rhoda, would you like to play the closing song? I'll just say that, again, this is another Beatles song. I really love this music video because it speaks to community and it's about devotion. So that's why I was inspired to include it here. I saw a question from Shauna come up on the screen. She was wondering if the young man playing the guitar, who looks like George Harrison, is his son, and it is. It's his son, Danny Harrison. So we have a few minutes here. I wanted to just share one thing. Want to give a shout out to Reverend Beverly. I see she's in the room here, and she switched dates with me because I had a family event last week. And so I spent 8 hours in the car driving to Albany and back. Excuse me. And while I was doing that, I was listening to Beatles music. So all of these songs, as I'm driving, they, all three of them came to me as, oh, that would be perfect for the service next week. So that's how I came to them. And so thank you, Beverly. And I also, I was listening to Reverend Beverly's talk last week, and I keep thinking about that experience that she had on I-76 in Philadelphia. And it just reminds me of, the fragility of our life here in form and who we really are. So thank you for that. So we still have 4 minutes. Anyone want to share anything? We're a quiet group this morning. Okay. I didn't pick a fourth song selection. Rhoda, do you have anything that you could close out with?
Well, if you want to keep talking, I will certainly find one.
Okay. Anne. Yes, Anne. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So many things that I love about what you pointed us to, but I think the thing I love the most is not pretending like that I am bad belief is not still playing. It still plays, and you notice it and you call it out, and that's what happens. It plays, and then we get a little break and it's like, oh, I think I got it. And then it plays again. And what do? We call it out again. We just call it out. And I just love that you've led us all right back into our own intuitive guidance for how to be with that. I mean, I love Robo Man. I mean, just embracing the fact that the help is here when we turn internally. We may not get Robo Man, but we can trust that something meets us with what we need in that moment, because what we are is just standing there saying, I want God. I want release. I want healing. I am willing. Show me, take me, do this with me, do this for me. I'm willing to join. But it's that hand that's up, that gets met. And you are just such a wonderful, inspirational vision for me of the hand that always goes up for the help and then takes whatever form the help comes and says, thank you, and right in back into your heart. So I love you. And I am so absolutely over the moon that the family that Reverend Carol started with her devotion, with her following the calling, started church. Wait, who, me? Started church? Well, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's what Regina says. Someone came to her, started church. Who, me? Started church? And now the two, and all of us, and it's just in this one big heart. And it is your heart that you invite us all into today. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Anne. I love you too. I'm so grateful for your presence. Thank you, everyone. I feel your love and support. And it's a circle. Thank you.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.